Hey guys, welcome back to another laptop review. The MSI Katana video I made seemed to have piqued a lot of interest and I was able to answer a lot of questions for you guys, so I'm hoping I can do the same with this video. If you're not familiar with the Legion line, I say they're the gaming focused machines produced by Lenovo compared to something like the Yoga or ThinkPad lines. We'll dive deeper into the specs and everything else later in the video, so let's get into the unboxing. Now if you saw my MSI Katana unboxing, you might notice some differences. Actually, not really. I mean, every laptop manufacturer has its own way of packaging their products. The way MSI presented their device was more up front and center and hid the extra accessories behind the laptop. Lenovo kinda just gives you the device and that's it. It's nestled between two foam pads and it's actually pretty secure. I would have personally liked some protection on the top and bottom of the laptop as well, apart from the little sleeve. But it got delivered unscathed, so it works. And other than the laptop, we just have the power supply. So no extra accessories like how MSI gives you a mouse, but again, this is a little higher end product than the Katana, so I guess less freebies to woo the customer. Let's take a look at the star of the show. I got this Legion Pro 5i for about $1,300 USD, and it's rocking a 13th gen Intel Core i7 13700HX CPU, an RTX 4070 GPU with 8GB of VRAM, 16GB of DDR5 RAM, which is 2 8 sticks, and it has a 512GB M.2 SSD. The display is a 16-inch wide quad extended graphics array with a 2560 by 1600 resolution. It has a 165Hz refresh rate and an anti-glare coating on the screen. This thing feels and looks good. It's not too heavy, but has enough weight to make it feel like good quality plastic. The lid of the laptop is metal, I'm assuming aluminum. The spacing between the keys and the palm rest are well laid out. There is very little flex over the laptop. I did do a push-in test on the top lid and around the keyboard and body, and not too much flex. The only places that flexed were the trackpad, but again, that's a separate piece and not included in the plastic body, so that makes sense. The screen is also solid thanks to that metal lid and barely flexes. Also, the little notch at the top makes it easy for one-hand opening. The screen is good. I like the 16:10 aspect ratio. I like the small bezels. I like the anti-glare coating. A little. It's a nice screen. Now, is it better than the MSI Katana? Yeah. It's a little bigger, but also 1600p. Is it better than the MacBook Pro? No. So I understand the anti-glare portion, but I mean, this is a gaming laptop. I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like this is usually played in a dimly lit room and not under the sun. Actually, here's something more confusing for you. They put a anti-glare screen so you can avoid reflections, but also cap the brightness at 300 nits. So which is it? The screen gets bright enough for me, but again, my daily driver MacBook screen just visually looks more clear. The MacBook has 500 nits of brightness, sometimes more with HDR content. The anti-glare screen gives a bit of a muffled look, but I need to be clear in that it doesn't look low res. The Katana was a 1080 screen panel, it was low res and muddy looking. This screen just looks a little swampy, but like a swamp that took a turn for the better and is trying to become a freshwater pond. The port selection on this device is awesome. Starting on the right side, we have a headphone mic combo jack, a webcam e-shutter switch so we can turn off the camera, and a USB-A 3.2 Gen 1 port. On the left side, we have another USB-A 3.2 Gen 1 port and a USB-C 3.2 Gen 2 port. The back is where we have most of our ports. We have an Ethernet port, a USB-C 3.2 Gen 2, which can also be a DisplayPort 1.4, a 140 watt charging port with power delivery. It also has an HDMI 2.1 port, which can support up to 4K 120 out, two more USB-A 3.2 Gen 1 ports, and the DC in port that's used for that behemoth of a charger. This is actually my first laptop with ports on the back, and I'm a huge fan. It leads to a cleaner desk setup and frees up the space to the sides of the laptop. The back ports are also labeled on top so you can tell what's what. I've seen online that some people would have liked the labels to be illuminated so they can see in the dark, but I don't know, just use a light. Okay, so this power supply is a chunky boy, a hefty little man. It's heavy. It's a 300 watt charger. I mean, this is the largest power supply I have. It reminds me of the Xbox 360 or original Xbox One's power supply. The DC in connector is also unique to me. It reminds me of the Game Boy Advance SP charger. Since this is a gaming laptop, the battery life isn't great, so you'll need to expect to carry the power supply with you wherever you go, and just be prepared for the weight that it comes with. It's heavy. Once you start up the laptop and get into the mostly poopy bloatware applications installed, okay, how should we do this? Every laptop in my experience has put their own crap on the system. Some things are useful, some things are useless. The few apps that are useful include Lenovo Vantage, which is similar to Armoury Crate if you've ever used an Asus device. This app is actually really cool and lets you do almost everything from the GUI. You can see your CPU and GPU usage, how much storage you have left, edit power and media settings. This is just a one-stop shop for tweaking the system. You can also overclock the system from here too, which is nice since some laptops require a third-party software to do that. The next useful app I'd argue isn't that useful to me personally is the X-Rite Color Assistant app. This gives you more control over the color settings of the display and lets you choose preset options as well. I don't use this and I don't plan on it. I'm gonna be honest, the Legion came with a lot of apps and I went straight to uninstalling. It had something called Legion Arena that's essentially a game compiler and launcher, and I tend to not like those, so I uninstalled it. I rather choose the individual launchers. Even things like McAfee and Office, if I don't use it, I'm not gonna let it just sit there and run its little processes randomly. Since I plan on this being mostly a gaming device, I want as much dedicated focus to go to the gaming. One thing I did like is that it's very simple to switch between the integrated graphics and the dedicated 4070 GPU. You can choose one or the other, or leave it to the system to automatically detect what you're using and choose the best graphics processor for that situation. Using integrated graphics for small tasks will increase the battery life, but not by much. The keyboard is actually really good. It's clicky and has a good level of travel, and like I mentioned before, the keys don't feel too jammed together, but also don't leave a huge gap between the edges or too little of a gap. The RGB keyboard isn't as customizable as a Razer keyboard, but it is decent. You can cycle through a handful of settings and the light isn't too blinding in the dark. I have yet to find a way to customize the RGB settings to see if there's more personalization options, so if you know a method, let me know. Okay, so similar to the last review, I have some size comparisons. First up is my old 15.6-inch HP Omen laptop. When looking at it, it's not too different. The Legion has a slightly smaller footprint than the Omen, but that's also due to the Omen having some chunky bezels. Also, I know I said I'd do a gaming video on the 9060 GPU on the Omen, and I will. Let me just vibe first. Thickness wise, they're pretty similar, and I didn't use a scale, but they even weigh a similar weight. Next up is my daily driver, the M1 Pro 14-inch MacBook Pro. Off the back, the MacBook weighs a lot more. It's all metal and feels a lot more dense. With the MacBook being smaller and having smaller bezels, of course it has a smaller footprint. Inside we can see the trackpad on the MacBook is larger, and this is something I wish more laptop manufacturers would do because the trackpad just feels alright on the Legion. I guess more people use a mouse for a gaming laptop like this, but focusing on the touchpad wouldn't be a bad improvement for future iterations. The bezels on both devices are nice and sleek, and when we look at a side profile, the MacBook is of course a little bit thinner. Now, so far this laptop has been alright or pretty good, and I'm judging the experience regardless of the price. It's more expensive than the Katana, and it's better than that, but it's also cheaper than the MacBook, and it's not as good as that, in some aspects. I don't mean to say that price means everything, but more so that the price range for this feels fair. Okay, now something I strongly dislike about the Legion Pro 5i are the speakers. They're located on the sides of the bottom, and they honestly sound like dog water. My phone plays audio more clear than this laptop. Now that I say that, iPhones aren't cheap, but still, I would have liked a more clear audio profile from these speakers. Because I plan on gaming mostly, I plan on using headphones with this, so the speakers won't be that applicable that much, but you'll see here that I did a comparison between the MacBook and the Legion is lacking bass and sounds very shallow.
The only reason that I really have it is because it came with bundled with the PlayStation. Geek. In this video, I'm going to be sharing another gameplay video here on the PlayStation Portal. This time around, I'm going to be playing Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, which just...
So to take this thing apart, it's actually pretty easy. Just undo the screws on the bottom plastic panel. Be careful not to twist too much because stripping these would suck. Once you take the screws out, you'll need a plastic pry tool to pop the cover off. I found luck working from the bottom first, then made my way around. And once we're open, you'll see the clean and organized internals. One thing I liked is that everything has a cover on it. We have the 5052 mAh battery, not one but two full-size M.2 drive slots. I think 2 is mandatory for a laptop of this price, especially since mine only came with 5 12GB M.2 SSD. The metal covers for the SSD also have a built-in thermal pad, which is a nice touch. And under the middle metal plating, say that 4 times fast, you'll also see the DDR5 RAM sticks. This is dual channel and my unit came with 2 8GB sticks. Adding another SSD and replacing the 16GB of RAM with 32 is definitely an easy and worthwhile upgrade for a device of this caliber. The fans on this thing they get put to work. This is by no means a quiet laptop. There are 2 fans and 4 exhaust vents, 2 on each side and 2 on the back. The fan noise is pretty strong when playing games, and I'd recommend using headphones when possible. Although the keyboard itself doesn't get too hot, maybe a little warm after an hour of gaming, I did notice the side vent blowing hot air where my hand would be when gaming. Again, it's not hot, but the warm air is noticeable. This factor also depends on where your hand rests while gaming, and also if you choose to dock the laptop or use a controller. You can manually control the fan speeds or let the system automatically kick them on. After a 2-hour gaming session, I never noticed any thermal throttling, so although it's loud, the fans accomplish what they're meant to do. Next up, we have some gameplay. When I research gaming laptops, gameplay is usually what I look for to see how the system can handle some games that I'd personally throw at it. Now, a laptop 4070 is nowhere near a desktop 4070. The mobile 4070 is more comparable to a desktop 3060 GPU. With that being said, we're going to be looking at 3 games: Fortnite, Cyberpunk 2077, and Battlefield 2042. These are all pretty current and power-hungry AAA games depending on what settings you're running them at. You'll see for each game, I captured my point of view, but also used OBS to capture the display itself. I would like to note a few things. 1. I wasn't very consistent with using the FPS counter. For Fortnite, I used the built-in FPS counter at the top right. For Cyberpunk, I turned on the NVIDIA FPS counter, and for Battlefield, I had the NVIDIA performance monitor on from the start. The second thing I want to note is that running OBS does slightly impact gaming performance. Although not captured, when I turned OBS recording off, I did notice a 5 to 10 frame boost in performance, so keep that in mind. The third thing that I want to mention is that I really tried to push this laptop to the limit. I started with the highest settings possible, then tweaked some things as I went. Even with high, sometimes ultra settings, I was usually always around 60 FPS, and you'll see here that I modify other graphical settings to tune DLSS and other options. I did, however, always keep the resolution at max settings, and I also had OBS capped at 120Hz, so keep that in mind.
To start securing sectors. Enemy has majority control. Bravo 1 is under attack.
So even though I didn't do this in the MSI video, I also want to go ahead and do a quick demonstration of how this laptop looks when used on an external display. If this is your main gaming PC, you might close the lid and just play it on the screen, or have the lid open and have another screen for two monitors. I don't know. For one example, I mirror the Legion and the other one I extended the display. You'll see that when I play on my 4K 144Hz TV, it ran awesome. I used the HDMI 2.1 port and got all the performance I could have asked for. The other device was just my normal 1440p 144Hz monitor. This too ran without any noticeable hiccups. Alright guys, so let me give you my final thoughts and wrap this video up. I spent about $1,300 USD on this gaming laptop. It's an i7, has a 4070, 1600 res screen, and runs at 165 Hz. I think the price you're paying is worthy of the device you're getting. It ran every game I threw at it, on and off screen. Of course you can always tweak the settings to get better performance, but it never ran a game to the point where I thought, oh, it's not powerful enough. It has all the specs you need and comes in a well-built package. Although there wasn't really anything I disliked with my purchase, I will still note that again, this is a gaming laptop and it has bad battery life. The power supply is heavy and carrying it around will be noticeable, so keep that in mind. Also, the speakers suck and it's okay. But I'm happy with my purchase. I was waiting for a while to get a new system and this one looked too good to pass up on. It's also that time of year right now when electronics go on sale, so if you're interested in picking something up or you want to find a video of how this laptop performs, I hope this helped you. If you want to see more from this laptop or have any questions, please drop them in the comments below. As always, I appreciate you guys watching. If you liked the video, drop a like. If you want to support the channel and stay tuned for future videos, please consider subscribing. I'll see you guys in the next one. Okay, thanks, bye.